Down cosmology?
What do you mean by top-down cosmology?
Yeah, it's just the, as posed by Stephen Hawking and Thomas Hertog, that the universe's initial conditions consisted of a superposition of many possible initial conditions. And then there's a internal selection process, which is just collapsed onto the universes that are actualizable based on if which ones have wave function collapsing properties. So I was just wondering if what you posted addresses that, because on that view, then it's not clear that the probability of life is low on naturalism.
But what are you talking about in top-down cosmology? That's just for the initial conditions, not for the constants of life, is it?
Well, it's the probability for the process of life is derivable from it. Or at least it's derivable that it's not clear that it would be low. So the point would just be that if there's an internal selection mechanism for the cosmological constant, for the constants of the universe, based on a collapse of their superposition, if it's indexed to some superposition collapsing mechanism, then it wouldn't be clear that the probability of life on naturalism is low, because it could easily be, at least on many interpretations of quantum mechanics, like the Copenhagen interpretation, that life, as we know it, would be that wave function collapsing mechanism, because we have the observer properties that can collapse a wave function. And so, especially if you combine that things with things like the theory of time and whatnot, in which each universe would have its all of its timeline stretched out such that it would encapsulate the totality of the universe that it exists in superposition with. So it would just internally select for all of the life or constants that are able to result in life. And so if that's the case, then it's not clear why life wouldn't be highly probable on naturalism. Because the reason we have these constants are just because of because that's what is able to collapse the wave function. These are the constants that are able to produce entities that collapse the wave function that coexist with other constants. And so it's trivial that we have these constants. If we had other constants, then we wouldn't have a universe with entities that are capable of having wave function collapsing mechanism. And so we would just be left with the universe in a superposition state of all the constants, at least on that theory. And so then we would need an argument against that theory for premise 1 to go through, at the least.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually haven't heard of top-down cosmology. So the first article I link, it's a review article, and I don't see stuff on top-down cosmology in there.
Well, I mean, you may not see it. So the answer to my question was no, then, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, it's not like it's something fringe. I mean, it's proposed by Stephen Hawking.
Okay, yeah, but you'd have to evaluate, but you'd probably have to evaluate the evidence that this theory is true. And
you would have to evaluate it because you're the one making the fine-tuning argument, right?
Yeah. But so
that's your burden.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. And I think one other problem that, for example, Luke Barnes mentions in the review article is what he calls it is the key and toad problem in cosmology.
Wait, hold on. 1 second. Is what you're telling me going to address what I'm saying? What I brought up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like and so the analogy he gives is like in Australia in sugarcane there are these cane beetles attacking the sugarcane, and so what they did was they imported these cane toads to kill the beetles. Now they have a huge problem with these cane toads running amok. So yeah, if you get to the point where you find that there's a selection mechanism that might dictate the constants, you should ask why there is this deeper selection mechanism that dictates the constants.
Oh, the theory already offers an explanation for that.
And why we'd expect it given naturalism.
Yeah, the theory. Yeah, that's offered as an explanation. Yeah, I've offered that. So the reason, what explains why there's a selection mechanism, is just because the thing that is selecting are things that have, or at least on the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, are things that have observer properties of quantum mechanical states. So those are the things that can collapse wave functions, and life just happens to be one of those things or the major thing at least that has the observer property.
Yeah, but you have to ask why is the universe constructed in such a way that life has observer properties? If unnaturalism.
Oh well, that's going to be that's going to be a question that I don't see how I'm going to need to have. Why is it that the universe is constructed so that life has observer properties? I just think that would be. Some life has observer properties. I don't know if all life has it, or observer registering properties.
Yeah.
But the question of why that could just be accounted for in terms of some mechanistic explanation for relating to what life is. I mean, in terms of, or at least higher order life. Like if you have we can retain information. That's part of. I mean, there's going to be some entailments from that, from life to. So there's going to be some information retaining properties, like that could just be cashed out mechanistically. I'm not sure why I would have to understand.
Yeah, but even if you're cashing it out mechanistically, you're going to have to ask why those mechanisms. So.
What?
You're going to ask why the universe is constructed in such a way that it has these mechanisms that link this selection effect to these constants, because it didn't have to be this way that there was a selection effect.
No, the explanation, but there is an explanation to why there's a selection effect. The explanation to this, why there's a selection effect, is just that there is a, given that it's true that superposition states exist, and given that it's true that superposition states are collapsed by observer properties, and given that the universe was in an initial state of superposition of the constants, then it just follows. Now, if you want to ask, well, why is it the case that what explains the universe being in a superposition state? Okay, well, that may be unexplained, but I don't know why I would have to explain that in order for your argument to not go through.
We're going to ask if it's probable that the universe.
But you would need
given at the start.
Yeah, but you would need an argument such that it's unprobable for that to be the case, right? Like the fact that I may not have an explanation for that, it's still going to be on you, because you're the one asserting P1 and you're the one asserting P2.
Yeah.
On you to make an argument that that's improbable, regardless of whether I have an explanation or not.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you don't have an explanation. I'm saying that we'd have to cash that out. It's like, would we expect the universe to exhibit these?
And just to be clear to the audience here, because
the selection effect.
Just 1 second. Just one second. Just to clarify to the audience, this is not multiverse theory. This is top-down cosmology. This is a completely different theory than multiverse. I understand, like, you could run multiverse objections, but this isn't even that. This is an objection that can be ran without like posing any like ontic multiverse or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna. So ultimately, like, I guess, we need to do the calculations. If it's likely that we think the universe would be constructed in a way such that there'd be the superposition effect, such that there would be a link to these constants, such that there'd be a selection effect, life. And we'd ultimately ask if that's probable or natural.
Yeah. So what? No.
I'll have to look at.
Clear. So to be clear, what? It's not going to need to ask. You're going to need.
Yeah.
Argument that all of these things are any type of theory that results in these things are improbable. So any type of theory that results in a internal selection effect of the constants, such that however you're defining life has a is tied to however you're defining life in terms of the selection effect, those things are improbable. So that's going to be needed as a supporting argument for P1.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll have to. We'll have to cash it out. And also about the observer selection effect. Have you ever Boltzmann brains?
No, this has nothing to do with Boltzmann. I'm sorry.
But you know what Boltzmann.
I've heard them. I've heard of them, but what's the rest?
Yeah, but it's saying like if we were to try to pose, there's a universe that creates that's compatible with life because of an observer selection effect. What the Boltzmann brain says is that if there was an observer selection effect, the observation, it's much more likely we'd get a small fluctuation of order that's equivalent to a human brain just suspended there, forming spontaneously, and a large and long-lived universe like the one that we observed. So it says that ultimately an observer selection effect can't explain why we live in like a large and older universe.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So the Boltzmann braid is the idea that so we have these observer selection effects. It's instead of getting like a large and long-lived universe like the one we're in from the observer selection effect, but what's much more likely to happen is that you'd have a small fluctuation in order, like the size of the human brain, that makes an observation and kind of disappears. So
I'm already lost. I'm not understanding what you're saying.
So they're saying that like say like you had any mass, there'd be random fluctuations, just statistics. Some of these fluctuations, they're gonna make something like a human brain. It should be something more like a human brain. That's extremely improbable, but it's probably that's much more probable that we'd have something like a small brain as a random fluctuation than a large and long-lived universe than the one we observe.
So you're saying that if there is a selection, if there is some observer selection effect, then the most likely outcomes that we would have are short-lived universes that have a observer in them, like a brain.
Yeah, just like a brain. Yeah.
Rather than a long-lived universe with a brain.
Yeah, well, a long-lived. Yeah.
All right. So what's
a large and long-lived universe?
So
like the one
what's the argument for that?
Yeah. So, Robin Collins makes it actually. Like you think it's statistically much more likely.
I understand the assertion, but why does he think that?
Let me pull up the literature too.
Just to be clear, are you going to explain to me what his reasoning is, or are you just going to cite me a paper without understanding it?
I understand the concept. I'm saying
understand. No, I didn't ask if you understood the concept. I asked if you understood his reasoning to get to that concept and to justify it.
Yeah.
You understand his justification for the statistical claim?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
It's statistically more likely we get fluctuations that produce a small universe with an observer, then a larger and long universe.
Okay, that's the claim. No, that's the claim. I didn't ask you if you understood what the claim was. I asked you if you understood what the justification was for the statistical claim. So do you understand what the justification is for that statistical claim?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
Well, it's the probability given the observer selection effects.
That's just repeating the claim. Do you understand?
Okay, so I mean,
you're repeating the. Wait a minute, because now I'm detecting. This is bad. I'm getting irritated now. I asked you. No. I asked you because you made an assertion. You said, well, it's if we had an observer selection effect, it would be more probable that we would have short-lived universes with brains than long-lived universes with brains. And I asked you what's the argument for that? What the evidence is for it? And then you said, okay, well, Collins has a case for that. And then I asked you if you understand his case. Do you understand his justification for that claim? And then you said yes. And I asked you what it is, and you repeated the claim.
Okay. I guess.
Now my question. I'm going to ask the question again. And it's okay to say no, by the way, if you don't know something.
Okay.
My question is, do you understand? Because you're about to link me a paper. I'm just wondering if you understand the justification for that claim in the paper that you're about to link me, or if you're just going to link me a paper without understanding the justification for the claim. I'm not asking if you understand what the claim is. So don't repeat what the claim is. So I don't want to hear anything about, yeah, it's that the probability is going to be higher for short-lived universes with brains than long-lived universes with brains on an observer selection effect. Like, if you say that, you've just not answered the question.
Okay. So, as an answer, do you want a precise probability?
No, I want you to answer the question that I've just asked you.
I mean, I guess, yeah. I'm still not sure what you're asking me. If you don't.
Okay, well then, why have you been answering? Well, first of all, why have you been answering a question all this time if you're not sure what I've been asking?
Because I
misunderstood. You think that's a little weird?
I misunderstood what you'd been asking.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, sure. So, what is there? Okay, so is there any part of the question you found unclear? I think it's a pretty clear question. My question is just, here's the statistical claim. The statistical claim is just that it's more probable on an observer's selection effect that you'd have short-lived universes with brains than long-lived universes, like of the type we see today. Now, my question is, do you understand the justification for that statistical claim? Can you reproduce it in your own words?
I understand like the big concept, but no, not in detail. So
okay, I didn't understand if you No, that's also not answering the question. So I didn't ask you if you understood the concept or in how much detail you understood the concept. Right? That wasn't my question. My question was, there is a claim, right? I'm not asking if you understand the concept relating to the claim or not. I'm asking you if you understand the justification for the claim. Do you understand that question?
Yeah. So, like, the way.
Can you repeat? Can you restate my question? Like, just to make sure that because it seems like every time you're answering it, you're not answering the question. Like, what am I asking you right now?
You asked if I understood the justification for the claim and if I can reproduce it in my words.
Yeah. So what do you? So is there anything unclear about that question?
All right.
Wait, is there anything unclear about the question?
So from my perspective, like
Wait.
So the way I answered it.
Is there anything unclear about the question? You could say yes or no and then elaborate.
I mean, yes, because like the way I answered it before,
Okay.
you thought it wasn't acceptable. So
Yeah.
like,
Do you understand how like saying I understand I understand the concept but not in great detail is not answering the question? Do you understand why that's not answering the question?
yeah, I actually don't see why.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
could you be specific
Sure.
on what?
Yeah.
Could you be specific on what
Yeah.
kind of justification you're looking for? Like,
Yeah. So it could be, so if there's a statistical claim, then we can, then I expect there to be some sort of justification in the form of certain, it could come in the form of certain mathematical calculations. It could be in the form of certain statistical calculations. Whatever calculations Collins came to, with whatever assumptions that he made to justify this claim, those would just be the type of justifications I'm talking about. There's some form of inference that Collins made, which justifies some claim. So that's what I want to know. Now that I haven't read the paper, but I'm assuming there's some sort of calculation that he went through.
yeah,
And so that would be part of it. Like, do you know like what are the things he calculated? Do you know the type of variables he used? Do you know how he got the calculation to be the way it is? Do you know why it's that way? Do you understand like if I just asked you like why is it like what reason do I have to believe that on an observer selection effect this is more likely than the other? Like, could you give me some form of justification for that? That's what I'm asking for.
Yeah,
and now
not right now, no.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. Now fine. Thank you for answering the question. So the answer to the question is no. You don't have a justification for that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why did that take this long? I'm just as a point of process if we're going forward.
I guess like I think like if like it was another topic, and you asked me if I understand how people get high cholesterol, I could probably say yeah, they got saturated fat, they consume saturated fat and dietary cholesterol, and their cholesterol got high. I don't know the precise equation or precise studies that they did find it out, but in my head, I think I understand the concept.
Yeah, but if I asked you, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know that it is the case that eating saturated fat and dietary cholesterol increases serum cholesterol? Your response at that point should just be, "I don't know. I've just seen this with some papers," right? Like it shouldn't be like this whole circle of like, well, I understand the concept, but not perfectly. I understand like I have some broad understanding of dietary cholesterol, and I have some broad understanding of saturated fat, but I do have like I understand the justification. And then when I ask you what's the justification, you say, well, I don't understand the concept precisely of cholesterol. I don't exactly know what the molecule is. Like, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that type of circus. Like, it should just be like, hey, I've seen some papers. I don't know the justification for it. I can't walk you through the reasoning. So I don't have a justification for that, other than I've seen it claimed in a paper. Like, that's what the response should just be. It's not complicated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, because the thing is, like, I don't know if Collins is talking about the same type of observer selection effect that I am, even. Like, I'm not even sure if he's talking about an observer selection effect where there's a superposition of constants of the universe from the outset. Like, is that do you even know if he's talking about that type of observer selection effect? Hello?
Yeah, he's probably talking about a different one than if you're talking about.
Okay, so that wasn't even relevant to my objection to your argument. If he's talking about a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why'd you even mention it? Because I asked you, remember when you mentioned it, I asked you from the outset, is this going to be addressing what I'm addressing? And then you said yes. And now I'm asking if he's even talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
and then
I
you
think
said probably not.
Yeah, I linked the two observer selection effect in my
Wait, but why? Wait, but what? Why are you linking? Why are you linking me things? If you think they don't address what I'm saying. Why do you do this, man?
That was a mistake on my part.
Okay. All right. Listen, I all right. So look, here's where we're leaving things. Look, just a couple of things. Like just take a step back and just like, okay, like address what the other person's saying. Like, don't reflexively just shoot things at other people without knowing if they're actually addressing what they're saying, without answering the question they're asking. And where we're at here in terms of the argument, you don't have an argument for P1 because I don't see why I would accept P1 because I don't see why type of theories that have selection effects or observer selection effects are false, among many other things. But that thing alone, you would need an argument for. So that's what you need to build into your fine-tuning argument. Other than that, otherwise, it's not motivating for me to accept P1.
Definitely, I need to research top-down cosmology, and if there's any sort of fine-tuning that those cosmological models would require.
Yeah, and that's just one of many potential objections, by the way. But sure, yeah, that's one thing that okay, that alone, like P1, I don't see it goes through. All right, I gotta bounce. But yeah, like I know you're probably looking at the chat, but because I am too right now. I'm saying like, yeah, I agree. Like, listen, like, it's okay to lose gracefully. It's okay. It's okay. Look, I've lost debates too. Sometimes it happens. It's all right.
Yeah, I mean,
you take a step back. You go over your position. Either your position can deal with it or it can't. And if your position can't deal with it, then look, the worst thing that can happen is you change your view to a view that's more defensible. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm cool with losing. Yeah, I just haven't read much on top-down cosmology, so I definitely need to research it if that's an objection that comes up.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Oh, cool.
Later.
Oh, wait. One question is.
Sure.
Is the Copenhagen? Is that compatible with the naturalist view on consciousness?
I'm not sure. I know there are naturalists. who affirm Copenhagen interpretation. So I'm assuming there's probably some defensible way of making those work. But it's not it's not something that I'm deep in a debate about, or have any stock or horse in the game. So I could be right or wrong. I don't know. But in either case, if you want to make that part of the case that, naturalism entails some contradiction with the Copenhagen interpretation, it would be on you to do that.
Yeah. I definitely need to probably build it that way.
Yeah. All right. Later. It's just like, one before, just... It's going to be more... I'm sorry to keep doing this, but it's like it's going to be more helpful in future conversations too. It's like you don't want to give the impression that you're just like saying things reflexively because like you're motivated in any way. Like it's just going to be like it was frustrating in the conversation for me to deal with that. It's like a lot of times like it didn't seem like you were understanding what I was saying. I'm like, is this a communication failure on my part? And it seems like everyone else is understanding what I'm asking, and it just seems like you seem to even like understand what I ask. And when you respond with something that doesn't really like address it, it just seems like you're responding because you feel the need to give a response. Because you feel the need to defend some position, some view, even if it's Yeah.
Like, Avi's just telling you, like, basically, like, we're not trying to be assholes to you, and we kind of laugh at you being motivated in chat, but it's like, that's the reaction you're gonna get, and that's why everyone except Troy, who's just, like, unreasonably nice, got mad talking to you, right? It's like, if everyone talking to you who's smart enough to understand the topic is getting mad, you should consider that there might be something bad you're doing. Now, I don't think you're being an asshole, I don't think you're trying to, but you have a habit of reflexively resisting what's said, and that just massively slows down the conversation, and it makes people feel unheard, right? It makes people think you're not listening to them because you're not responding, you're hearing and not listening, right? Exactly, you're hearing but you're not listening. It's like, yes, you heard the sounds, and your reply uses some of the words that Avi's sentences used or Jack's sentences used, but you're not, like, genuinely taking in what he says, processing it, and then responding, right? You're, like, reflexively defending your view while half understanding what he's saying. So I don't know if you, like, have this self-awareness or honesty to acknowledge that, but if you can, and you can just, like, kind of work on not doing that, which won't be immediate. You'll have to, like, develop the skill of not doing that. It's not something you can just do immediately. It's like if you say, I'm never going to get angry again. Like, yeah, you might want that, but it's going to take a little practice. But yeah, if you work on that, then you won't have these kind of frustrating conversations. People just want to feel you're actually listening and processing what they say and not responding reflexively. The way to do that is just to make sure that you listen carefully. I think that's what Avi's getting at, surely, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I guess, like, yeah, I do think I definitely made some mistakes, mostly because I wasn't too familiar with the top-down cosmology, and yeah, I definitely made some mistakes there. I feel like basically my perspective was what was happening with Jack was he was trying to lead me down this route that I really didn't think was relevant to the argument I presented, and I guess that's why I felt like I was resisting him a lot.
I mean, you're even kind of doing it right now, but you know, whatever. I would just say next time you talk to Jack, just, you know, try to make sure you understand what he's saying, process what he's saying before trying to claim it's irrelevant and going off on some tangent. But I'm a bit sympathetic because I don't actually I don't know how not to be a dick and say this, but I don't even think you have the self-awareness to notice you're doing it. So yeah, but it's gonna piss people off. So you should try to become aware of the fact that you're being reflexive and try not to do it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I guess, like, when I prepared, like, my argument, I intentionally, like, kind of limited the scope. Yeah, just because I felt like I didn't want to come in here.
He's still doing it. I can't take it. I gotta go. But it's just proving my point right here.